What's up, everyone? Tyler DeLuca back here, and we have a champion. As you can see, we have a champion. South Carolina goes undefeated. They finish their story. What a season it has been, and what a game to cap it off. South Carolina wins the national championship 87-75. We got to talk about this dominance overall. First off, that's where I want to start. Over the past 100 plus games, last 3 seasons, South Carolina's lost 3 games by a total of 7 points. That isn't normal, and frankly, it's getting closer to being the closest that we might see to a dynasty in this era. I mean, frankly, the era is still going, and this is the Dawn Staley era right now. But we've now seen more parity than ever across women's basketball. Yet one thing remains the same: South Carolina is going to be there. South Carolina is going to be there, and we saw that UConn made it this year as well. But in recent years, it's been South Carolina, and it continued. And what Dawn Staley has been able to build at South Carolina, leading to this national championship, is nothing short of remarkable. I mean, I think everyone that watched the game knows it now, but they lost all 5 starters from last year. And this was supposed to be the rebuilding season. That was what this was plotted out to be, the rebuild. However, this program doesn't rebuild. It reloads. That's what this program has been turned into by Dawn Staley. I mean, when you think about just dominance, not only just the record, but in the games themselves, I think the thing that sticks out the most to me with this South Carolina team, and it's not hard to find, but it's the depth. Because dominance was dominating for all 40 minutes. Every game. Iowa had their first quarter. And after that first quarter, it was South Carolina's game. I mean, just what this team has been able to do, and the rotations that Dawn has been able to deploy due to the depth, due to the talent on this team, is absolutely insane. That this is what this team ended up accomplishing, ended up looking like, ended up meshing together to be just a year after last year's Final Four loss to Iowa, where then so many players left. It is not. It's so hard to wrap around the greatness that this South Carolina program has become. And like I said, this is an era where sustained greatness is becoming harder and harder. The talent is becoming better and better across the board. The depth of talent. There's always been superstar players, but now the depth of talent across the country, I feel like, is deeper than it has ever been in the history of women's basketball. Yet South Carolina just keeps winning. They just keep winning. And this was such an incredible... If you look at the story of the past 2 years, it's been one that has seen the highest highs, has seen an incredible low after the Final Four loss. I mean, it felt like after the SEC championship game, where Camila Cardoso hits the game-winning 3 against Tennessee, banks it in. This was a team of destiny, and that destiny was fulfilled. Talking about the game itself, talking about Camila Cardoso, the most outstanding player. Dawn Staley said after the game that Camila Cardoso was not going to let South Carolina lose a game in this tournament, and she didn't. At different points in the tournament, I think there was a different leading scorer every game for South Carolina, but Camila was so constant, so consistent over the course of this tournament, and has been over the course of this season, to the point where I think at absolute minimum, there's conversations to be had about should she be a top 3 pick? Should she be a top 2 pick? I think there's conversations to be had at minimum. If not, her being the answer to those conversations. But man, the freshman as well in this game. Tessa Johnson, absolutely incredible. When you look at just a player that just seems to always be there, whenever she's been on the floor, you very rarely feel like she's making mistakes or that she's impacting negatively. It's always positive impacts, and just as a freshman. And same with Wiley. I tweeted it out in Avengers when Tony Stark says, "Yeah, we have a Hulk." That's what it feels like when Dawn Staley brings Wiley off the bench. Absolutely, I mean, a baller. Through and through, a baller. And they helped right the ship. Because like I said, Iowa had a very, very good first quarter. Came out hot. But then the freshmen came in, righted the ship a little bit, and then Dawn Staley made the adjustment to put Raven Johnson onto Caitlin Clark. And she didn't guard her the entirety of the game, but from that point forward, it was just never easy for Caitlin. And man, what a season. What a season for South Carolina. And it's crazy thinking about the impact that the freshmen had on this game, or even Raven had on this game. They're not going anywhere. This team was supposed to be the rebuild. Camilla's going to the draft, yes, but every other piece, they're not going anywhere. So much of this team is remaining intact, and this is the worst that they're going to be when it comes to individual talent. This is the worst that they're going to be. They're only going to get better from here. And they just went undefeated and won the national championship. It is remarkable at what Dawn Staley has been able to build in Columbia, South Carolina. And man, what a game to cap it off on. I think that it's a very special team because they were ranked 6 or 7 preseason. And then they go and do this. I mean, incredible. I've kind of run out of words to describe what Dawn Staley has been able to build. And speaking of building, on the flip side, what Caitlin Clark has been able to do over the course of her college career, and helping build this moment in women's basketball that is going to stretch so much further than a moment. And obviously it hasn't just been Caitlin, but she's broken containment of just the women's basketball bubble and brought so many new eyes to the game. And yes, she's not going to leave with the ring, but she is one of, if not the greatest offensive players that women's college basketball has ever seen. And Iowa is not a bad program by any means. It has, whether it be the Final Four with C. Vivian Stringer taking them in the 80s, or Megan Gustafson winning Player of the Year. It's not like there's not history here. But what Caitlin Clark has been able to do for Iowa is different. Back-to-back national championship games. And it felt like she struggled. And she did. She did struggle at times. And she still ended up with 30. I think that's just the standard that she's set for herself. But what a career when you think about where women's basketball was when she first stepped on the floor as a freshman to now. The growth that it's seen and the role that she's played in that is so incredible. And also, yes, she didn't get the ring, but this run as a whole in this tournament is still a check mark. It's still a massive point in her legacy. Yes, she didn't get the ring, and that's obviously a blemish, but think about the run to get to this spot. Because Iowa, we kind of known what they were and what they weren't, and how you would kind of build the team to beat them. We saw it with West Virginia. Perimeter defense, all up in your face, perimeter defense. They get past that. Colorado, similar vein, a little bit more experience. They get past that. LSU brings the size. And obviously they have some talent on the perimeter as well. And they get past that. UConn has a little bit of everything, frankly. You have the size in Leah Edwards. You have the defense in Nika Mule. You have the star player in Paige Beckers. And they get past that. And frankly, nobody was getting past South Carolina this year. Once it really came down to it, nobody was getting past South Carolina this year. So I just think that there's a level of credit to be given. And I don't know how history is going to look at Caitlin Clark not winning a ring. But for me, the point was proven. And nothing matches getting a ring. But the run itself, going back-to-back national championship runs, is an accomplishment in its own right. So, ultimately, though, only one team won the ring. And that was South Carolina. After a dominant season. So incredible the shift that they've been able to make from play style to across the board. It's a completely different team. And we hear so much about Don Staley's X's and O's or lack thereof. And if this season doesn't prove to you what the coaching mind of Don Staley can bring, I don't know what will. But this was such a wonderful way to cap off this incredible, this history-making women's basketball season in the NCAA. It's been a blast doing these videos and being able to talk with you guys about it and give my takes. We'll have to see what comes next in women's basketball. The WNBA is just on the horizon, so I know I'm excited for that one. And frankly, this moment that we're in with women's basketball, it's just a stop on the timeline. And it's going to keep going for many, many years in the future.